Welcome back to the Black Market. I'm your host Cobalt, and today we're going to be looking at Towerborne. This is going to be a bit of a doozy because there's a lot of story that needs to be told about this game to give you guys an accurate picture of whether or not you should buy it. I want to say this right now, and I want you guys to hear me when I say this. This game is, personally, I think this game is fantastic. This game is worth the $25. It is a great time. I've really enjoyed everything about this game. And I'm trying to make that clear up front, because when I tell you the story of this game, and why some of the issues that are in the game exist, it's gonna sound like I'm knocking the game. And I'm really just trying to tell you an unfortunate series of events that led to the game being released. I've got about 95 hours in early access and 25 more at the 1.0 release. So when I give you a verdict on this game, it's not a weekend opinion. There's played it a lot, and I've really enjoyed my time with it. But that does come with an asterisk. What is Towerborne? The side-scrolling brawler with a full RPG loot system behind it. I think Castle Crashers grew up and came back with some depth. You've got 4 classes. You've got your Sentinel, which is either your block and parry tank or your bleed-applying swashbuckler. Your Shadow Striker is your classic rogue. I don't know if you could tell by the name, but this relies a lot on either poisons, high crit, or a lot of invisibility. I personally spent way too much time on the Pyro class. This leans into elemental damage, primarily, yeah, you guessed it, fire. It applies a lot of damage over time, but it also has very heavy hits up front. Think hitting someone with a giant hammer, and then that hammer lights them on fire. And then lastly, there's the Rock Breaker, which is your classic brawler. You just get in someone's face and keep hitting them, screaming go to sleep until they just stop. They all feel different to play, and they all have more depth than they look like from the outside. This whole game has more depth than it looks like from the outside. The thing that kept me in for 95 hours in early access was the build system. But it was also the community and the co-op, and we'll touch on that a little bit later. But the build system is really cool in that your gear has set bonuses, but there's also legendary gear that has its own modifiers. And then on top of that, there are 3 slots for what are called aspects, basically gems. 1 in your head, 1 in your chest, and 1 on your weapon. These can be used to fill out your build with something that's missing, or min-max it and really just make sure that burn is extra burny. The combat also felt amazing. The combo system rewards you for actually leaning into air juggling. There's timing windows, there's a dodge that actually matters rather than just a panic button. It's not a game you just button mash through. You can kind of make builds to do that if you really want to, but this game implores you to have intention. The art style has this painterly quality to it. It's Ghibli-ish almost. Actually, a buddy of mine, without knowing anything about the game, picked it up just because it looked like a Ghibli movie. Stoic added more story content for 1.0, and the world building was always the thing they were good at from the Banner Saga, and that tracks. After 95 hours in early access, I still came back for the 1.0 release. And that's the quickest summary of the game's quality I can give you. But here's the complicated stuff, and this is the stuff that actually matters. There's no matchmaking. Not limited matchmaking, not janky matchmaking. There's no matchmaking at all. You can to play co-op, you have to manually invite your friends, and they have to be on the same platform as you. There's no crossplay. So Xbox and PlayStation can't play together, PlayStation and PC can't play together, none of that. The reason that's important is because in early access, there was crossplay. There was also cross-saves. You could play on multiple platforms and have your save data go across all of them and play with your friends wherever they were. And to understand why that stings a little, you need to know the history around the game. The game was originally planned to be a free-to-play live service title. Seasonal content, ongoing updates, the whole shebang. And then for about 6 months, the developers said absolutely nothing. No updates, no community posts, complete radio silence. They went dark. And a lot of people assumed the game was just dead and left. Some of them bought supporter packs for a live service game that was never going to exist, and they're rightfully frustrated about that. But I kept checking in on them, because I had had a blast in early access, and I really wanted to see what was going to happen with the game and if it was still going to come out. After that radio silence, they came back and said, hey, the game is no longer going to be a live service game. It is going to be you pay once and you have the whole game released for 1.0. And that was bittersweet, right? It's pretty cool to have that and be able to pay once and get everything you want. That's very nice. For one, am getting tired of live service games, but at the same time, What live service games offer is a game you know you can sink your teeth into, a game that you know there will always be something new in and you can always come back to and find it being interesting. And a lot of people didn't come back for that 1.0 because of that. You know, they spent their money hoping for a live service game. They were excited to have this beat 'em up that was going to have seemingly endless content, and now it is a side-scrolling brawler with about 15 hours of story content. You can do it in about 10 if you know what you're doing. And then, you know, you can kind of restart and do everything on brutal difficulty, which takes a bit longer. And there's a bunch of missions. I believe there's somewhere around 170 missions total. Some of those are just tutorial missions and some of those are full-blown dungeons, right? So there is content there, hence why I spent 25 hours post 1.0 playing the game. But yeah, what actually happened while they were in that development phase was that they pivoted. Right? It takes a massive amount of effort to change the fundamental architecture of an always online game to support offline play. It's not a small job. But the issue with that, and if you stop and think about it, is that kind of pivot doesn't happen because things are going well. It happens because there wasn't enough interest or support there to do what they originally planned. So they had to shift. Now, usually in the game industry, when something like that happens, they just nix the game. So I'm actually very happy that Stoic and Xbox were able to sit down and come up with a solution and actually still provide a game. I think a big problem was this silence. Providing zero updates made a lot of people lose faith and walk away. And I think that really hurt them. Because on top of that, there was no marketing push for this game, which kind of goes back to, I think the game was at a point where it was struggling. I'm not sure about this. This is my own conjecture based on the events that led up to this 1.0 release. The trajectory of the project suggests that this is not a team with a content roadmap ready to go. If you're buying this game, you're expecting a complete product, not a growing one. I don't think there's going to be DLC or further content, and I'm not even sure whether they're going to actually try to fix some of these multiplayer options. There has been no public commitment to doing anything of the sort, so that needs to be known going in. So, $25, and for me it was 120 hours. Here's where I actually land on this. The game is good. I want to be clear about that because everything I've said about the development situation could make it sound like I'm telling you to avoid it, and that's not the verdict. The combat has real depth, the builds stay interesting, the world has personality, and if you're into the genre, it'll give you genuine hours. The 1.0 release is a complete and polished product, but who it's for is pretty specific. For the solo player who likes brawlers with RPG depth, okay? It's for that small group of friends who are all on the same platform and can coordinate outside the game. Co-op is fun when those conditions are right. Anyone buying it because they want an active online community, or because they're hoping the multiplayer gets fixed, or because they're expecting content updates down the line, I'd pump those brakes. That's not the game you're getting. It's a good game that had a rough road, and it's probably done being developed, sadly. But know what you're walking into. And if you do know what you're walking into, it is worth the money. If you like brawlers, and you have a couple of friends on the same platform as you, or you're just fine with playing solo, this is a very fun game. I've had a great time playing it, and I'll probably keep playing it. But if you go in with the wrong expectations, you're going to be horribly disappointed. I think that's the information you need to know about Towerborne. It's a good game with a sad story. If you made it this far into the video, a like and a sub would be greatly appreciated. I'm trying to grow the channel right now, and every little bit helps. Be sure to hit that notification bell so you don't miss my next upload. As always, I'll be back tomorrow with another video. Peace out.